Greetings and welcome back to another episode of the Daily Run, and today we're playing as Lazarus. One of the things that I like to talk about here is kind of game design, and especially with pills, I feel like the pills have lost their meaning a lot, and I noticed this especially today because I think this was the first time in a very long time that I actually got something of a good pill as Lazarus on the first floor. So I thought to myself, when would I be actually happy or very disappointed for a pill effect? And when you think about it, there's really not that many effects of pills that would either make you really excited, that will really change the game, or maybe pills that would just kind of do something very bad for you. And I think the initial design of the pills, at least in the original version, the Flash version of the game, was that you would basically take a pill, you wouldn't know what its effect is, but obviously it can be something very bad, but it can also be something rather good. And that was balanced by the fact that you always had a health up and a health down pill. That was, you had a bad trip and a full health pill, and also a bad trip turned into a full health pill after you already identified it. So you had kind of some counterplay there, but also you had basically every stat effect up, but also every stat effect down. So basically whenever you would take a pill, you knew that you were going in with this risk versus reward type of situation. In the average case, it might be optimal for you to always take the pill because the average effect might be better than just not doing anything. So I'm trying to say it's gonna be positive and not negative, and that may be fine, but maybe in some particular cases, you don't want to gamble and you don't want to take a pill because it might have a very inadverse effect on you. But with Afterbirth Plus and just Rebirth and Isaac and how it's progressed, the pills don't really make much sense because there's so many of them, the pool is so diluted, that in most of the cases nothing bad is even gonna happen. Not just something bad, nothing bad or good is gonna happen. Most of the time the pill is gonna be neutral and you're really not gonna even be able to use it. There's so many pills which just spawn creep on the ground maybe, and I'm not really sure what the point of that is, because I understand obviously if there was like a creep, something like Lemon Mishap, I actually really enjoy that pill because it makes sense, you know, you use it and there's just a giant pool of liquid on the ground which deals damage to enemies. And what made that pill's effect unique is that the fact that it was so large and it was actually usable. When you entered the boss room, if there was a boss who could be damaged with a Lemon Mishap type of effect, you would use it and that would pretty much guarantee killed it. And of course, using it in that boss room was still a risk versus reward, because if you haven't identified a pill before, it might be something like a paralysis pill, and if that happens, obviously there's a good chance that you're gonna take damage. But with the new pills that got added, like I said again, they really don't have any effects. They don't have any adverse good effects or bad effects. Most of them are just neutral, and that doesn't make sense to me, because I really feel like that risk and that reward has been taken out of the pills somewhat. I felt really good about the pills in Rebirth especially. Sure, some new pills were added to the game, but I think they were balanced somewhat correctly, because again, you got introduced to this new dimension of pills. So are you gonna use them in a room where there's enemies because they might be potentially offensively good, or you might use them because they might be defensively good, or you can use them and something really bad can happen and it's gonna kind of get you damaged. But I don't know, you know, I did think about it a lot. I'm not really sure what my stance on pills is. I generally do take them because I think it makes the game a bit more fun. I also think that a lot of the effects on the average case is gonna be okay, but in most cases it's just not gonna do anything, so there's really no reason not to identify a pill as soon as you get it. Maybe the only exception I would make is playing as the Keeper or maybe a very slow character, because in that case getting a health downgrade or maybe even a speed downgrade can be very detrimental to just your whole success of the run. So I just wouldn't take it, because one pill can essentially ruin everything, and even if you get a good counterpart, so a health up pill, it won't really do anything in that case because you're the Keeper and you can have more than 2 health. But obviously that's a very niche case scenario. Or most other characters, if I do have enough health, I'm just gonna pop the pills as soon as they come, and I think that's okay in some regard. I know a lot of people swear by not taking pills at all, and I can't blame you, because I think they do make the game just a bit more unpredictable than it already is, and I think that's the aspect of the game that nobody likes. The fact that you can't control the outcomes of the things that's gonna happen. And when there was a smaller pool of pills, I felt like there was a way to control them. You could kind of maximize the efficiency that you would use out of an unknown pill, so maybe you could intentionally set yourself to half a heart, so maybe a bad trip would turn into a full trip. I mean, not a full trip, but full health, or maybe you could reduce your health to 1, so a health down would be a health up. Maybe you could go stand next to an antidrug just in case it's maybe like explosive diarrhea, but like I said, with the pills that exist right now in the game, I don't think that's possible, and oftentimes it's just not worth doing. I did some form of that at the start of the game, where there were like 5 pills in the secret room, and I just kept walking back and forth to the tinted rock from the second secret room, hoping that one of those pills is gonna be able to destroy a rock, so either gonna be a Horf pill or an explosive diarrhea, but sadly that didn't happen, and of course with most cases I don't think that's ever gonna happen, or at least if it does happen, it's gonna be so unlikely that I don't think it's even worth thinking about. all pills aside, this run was actually really decent. Again, it's an epic fetus run, which I know a lot of people don't like epic fetus because it does dumb down the game a lot, but I personally enjoy it because I think even though it's a very powerful item, especially with all the damage that we have now, it's still an item that requires a lot of toss to use, because you have to kind of think in two directions. You have to move while you're actually shooting, you have to take the delay into the account, you also have to take the explosive radius into account so you don't actually damage yourself, and overall I think it's a very engaging item to use, and it just overall a fun one to experience as you're actually traversing through the levels, especially with all the enemies that make it kind of hard sometimes because they split into more enemies. It can be quite a difficult one to use, and for that I kind of like it because it's not necessarily super powerful and super overpowered like it was maybe in the Flash version. Right now it's just a very, very good item which will most likely win you the game, but if you don't use it correctly then it has a good chance of actually hurting you more than it helps. The rest was pretty much all damage items, except maybe for the extra glasses. They're more there as a convenience sake, because then we don't have to use our epic feeder shots to destroy the walls to open up secret rooms and second secret rooms, and I mainly did that for time, because it takes some time to actually prime your rocket explosive to destroy the wall and then get into it. Having X-ray goggles means you don't have to worry about it at all, you can just enter the room, go in, and I think overall that did save me like, I would say 30 seconds of my time in total, which means that maybe I explored 1 or 2 rooms extra, which I think the points I gained by not wasting my time using epic feeders to open secret rooms, I think was worth it. So my decision for picking up was basically that I think that my time that I'm gonna save is gonna be made up by the rooms that I'm gonna explore. With that said, I really wasn't even able to explore all of the rooms because I was playing slowly. I'm not really sure why. I think this is a problem that I encounter often, especially with really powerful items. I think I have a very strong item and I feel like I can actually make it pretty fast to whichever objective I'm trying to make. But just because of how certain items work, and especially epic fetus, it's a rather slow item, and because you have to keep that in account, so to maximize your efficiency it's usually a good idea to kind of shoot multiple enemies at once. And again, it does require some finagling, and I do fall into that trap feeling that I'm faster than I actually am, and then I have to end up missing or skipping some rooms because I don't want to be late for Hush, obviously. But again, I feel like I've said this already enough times, but at this point we always have a decision to make. So are we gonna go to the Void, or are we gonna go to the Cathedral, not Shoal? And in this case, I still think that it's better to go to Shoal. Obviously, in this particular case, or this particular daily, it was more worth it to go to the Void, because this particular floor didn't have a sacrifice room or a 5 dice room, or it didn't have any items in the secret room, which I think would make this worth it. Or at least it did have an item in the secret room, but it wasn't an item that was necessarily usable for us. And to kind of add to top of my argument, or maybe if you didn't see it, I think it's more worth it to go to the Cathedral, because there's a chance that either you're going to find a sacrifice room, that's gonna give you more points if you actually decide to visit that, because you're gonna get the lamp bonus, but also an additional exploration bonus. And it's gonna be better if there's a 5 dice room, because that means you can do the whole cathedral again, and again you'll have another chance of a sacrifice room. And the third reason is that there's a secret room which can contain an item which allows you to break, so you can use a forget-me-not or something like that. Now, I'm not sure if the Void actually has secret rooms or second secret rooms, and if it does, that might change my opinion, because if you find something like a forget-me-not in the Void, you can then do that whole floor all over again, and because of how big it is, you can actually gain a lot of points that way. As a final touch here, I picked one of the new trinkets. It's called Butterfingers, I believe, and when you use your active item, it drops on the ground, and it's a really neat trinket. It's a really neat idea for a trinket. In this case, I wasn't really able to use it, but you can imagine that I could have gone to the secret room, and if I had something like a Purple Rune, there was already a Book of Secrets there, I could have dropped my active item there and then use my Purple Rune to reroll into 2 secret room items, and that would maybe give me something really good like a blank card. I already had Yara, or maybe I would get even something better like Forget Me Now. I could use that in that situation instead. But in this case I just decided to use it because it drops the item on the ground, which means it's not in my inventory anymore, and I just gained like something like 50 points in total, which is not a lot. My item penalty is a bit lower because of it. It's obviously nothing spectacular, but at least it did allow me to finish it a very nice score, 44555. So at least we get some points for being symmetric in some sense, and we did finish in the 31st spot. So overall, a really good run, nothing too spectacular obviously. With Epic Fetus, I think a lot of people just maybe dislike it, didn't pick it up, and maybe they had a bad run because of that, and that's the reason why I actually ranked so high. But also, if they did decide to pick Epic Fetus, they might have dropped the the dull razor some along the way and maybe picked up another active item. And I think because I did have the dull razor, I did save my damage penalty by quite a lot, because obviously I used it in some situations where I thought I'm gonna take damage. So that worked in all situations, and our run was actually still pretty slow, but overall I really enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed this one, guys, and I hope to see you next time.